It's a 10 out of 10. I just had to turn the camera on and talk about this one. Like, this one was necessary, because Mary and Max is a film by the same director, Adam Elliott, as Memoir of a Snail. And it's my favorite animated movie, and it's in my top four Letterbox. Like, yeah, I have a hard time saying what my favorite movie is, but I love Letterbox top four because it's like, okay, yeah, this is kind of like a four-way tie. Maybe some of these are higher than the others, but my top four has, in no specific order, has always been, well, not always, but for a while has been Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Whiplash, Mary and Max, and Adaptation. And Memoir of a Snail, had a lot to live up to. I had faith in it. It wasn't that I was like doubtful. I definitely didn't want to be disappointed by it, but I didn't really have a reason to be. But I normally do try to lower expectations because you'll just, expectations can hurt things. Expectations can make you not appreciate something as much as you would otherwise. But I did have it for this. This is like one of the few exceptions I had with a movie this year where I had huge expectations for it. Because not only is this Adam Elliott making another movie, this is Adam Elliott making another movie for the first time in 16 years. And I was just wondering like what it was going to be like. And I don't feel like I can't in any way say it's a sequel to Mary and Max, but it almost feels like if this was like an anthology series he was making, it could be in the same series. It could be another story because I feel like a lot of the same themes from Mary and Max are present here, and a lot of the like ways of telling a story are similar here. Like there's a narrator throughout most of the movie. We're switching back and forth between two different characters. There's a lot of visual gags thrown into the dialogue. It has a very similar sense of humor. It looks very similar. They play around with the colors depending on where the characters are, the same way Mary and Max does. But it still manages to do so much different to create a really unique and wonderful experience and creative experience and depressing experience and devastating experience and wholesome experience and heartwarming experience. Just so much to love about this movie. And I can't tell if I like it as much as Mary and Max, if it's just a little below Mary and Max, or if I like it even more than Mary and Max. And I'll say this right now, if I have to knock one off of the top four in favor of Memoir of a Snail, it's gonna be Adaptation. I love Adaptation, but Adaptation's gotta be the one to go. Still love it. Still top five. But Memoir of a Snail is like really sneaking its way in there. I can't do it yet because I've seen it once. I've seen all those other movies so many times. Mary and Max probably like 10 times now. I love it that much. I've shown it to so many people. And Memoir of the Snail, I gotta start showing that to people now because holy shit, I loved it. I like purchased it. I own it, so I can show it to whoever I want to show it to. But I just really have to recommend it. I do want to talk about a few things with it. And I am keeping the spoiler free because I want people to watch it. I don't want someone to say, oh, Michael's talking about this movie. Well, maybe I'll check it out after. Maybe I'll check out his review after I see the movie. No, I want you to watch this now, and I want you to go watch the movie after. Because it's just such a... This one connected with me, I think, maybe a little bit more than Mary and Max did. I found Mary and Max very endearing. I love the character so much. Philip Seymour Hoffman gives such a good performance in that movie. In this movie, we have Sarah Snook as Grace Puddle, the main character. And that really threw me off because I didn't recognize it as her voice at all. I had been watching, what the fuck is that show called? Why can't I think of it right now that she's on? It's huge. I've only seen 2 episodes. So that's why I'm drawing a blank. It's the show she's on. Everyone's gonna, if you look it up, you'll know what I'm talking about. I don't know why I can't think of the name right now. Jesus Christ. But I've just watched her on that show, and like I didn't like when I was watching this, like I was like, I have no idea who's voicing her. Is it the same person who voiced Mary and Max? I really couldn't tell. And then when I looked it up just before recording this, actually, I was like, oh shit, okay, she did an amazing job. Grace Puddle, I think, is a character that I've connected with greatly watching this movie. I think she is wonderful. I think she is a wonderful character, a very tragic character. But they managed to make her tragic without it being like straight up like torture porn, where like, oh, we just have to make isn't it sad that all this, I'm copying YMS's review right now, but I agree with him so much. Isn't it sad that all this horrible stuff is happening to someone? But no, they know when to lighten things up a little bit. They know when to build a character up, and they know when to tear that character down. And they do it with her so well. But the entire movie I was rooting for. Like, there are things about her that I don't want to relate with. There's like things about her life that are not good. There are things that she is doing that is not good. It's kind of like Caden from Synecdoche, New York, where he's a character that I relate to a lot, but I hate that I relate to him. I don't think he's a good person to relate to, even though I think most people watching are going to relate to him in some way, even if it's just an insecurity, awkwardness, fear of death. I think that there's normal and abnormal things to relate to with the character. But with Grace, even though there's like negative things that I relate to with her character, in the sense that she kind of like doesn't want to live her life, and she's fixated on things, and she's just lying in bed all day. Like, there's stuff that I see that I don't like. I can't say I think the character's unlikable at all. I think she's very sympathetic. I think she's very likable. You see the mistakes she's making, and you watch it, and you hopefully can identify it as a mistake. Like, probably shouldn't be doing this, probably shouldn't be doing that. But it's a lot more understandable, and it's a lot more sympathetic. And I really connected with her. I really liked her. I think out of these four movies, out of these four like main characters, because there's Gilbert and I'm going to compare it to Mary Max because there's a lot of similarities with Mary Max, and it's the director's on the other movie. But out of all four of like the characters that I've spent time with in Adam Elliott's movies, two movies, Grace, Gilbert, Max, and Mary, I think Grace is probably the one I've connected with the most out of all of them. Gilbert's also a super interesting character. I loved his scenes. He's definitely not as focused on as much as Grace is, but I still think he's very interesting. I still think his scenes are great. I like that we once again kind of get a back and forth perspective with the two. But that's very different from Mary and Max because I don't want to say too much. I'm gonna cut it off there. The only thing I will say that is kind of in I guess spoiler territory. So if you want to if you don't even want a hint, I'd say click off the video. I'm not going to say what happens, but I'm going to hint at it enough to maybe where you're watching it, you'll pick up on it while you're watching. I don't know. But I think some people, so this is your warning. This is your warning. If you don't want even a hint of what happens, don't watch this. I don't think this is going to ruin it for you, though. The ending, I think, is going to throw some people off. I think I love it. I had to think about it, but I love it. And I don't even think I have any problems with it. I think I just know how people are, and I think some people are going to not like that they do it. And if I had to guess what their problem would be with it, like the reason I think some people might not be for it is I think some people are going to consider the ending of this movie a cop-out. They're going to, because the movie kind of says one thing and then says another at the end. In my head, I think they completely justified it, though. I think that when you really look at the movie as a whole and you consider what's being said at the beginning of it, and what the overall message of the movie is, I think it still works. I don't mind, because it's very sudden, and maybe you could argue more time could have been dedicated to it, because it's like, it just happens so quickly and then the movie ends. But I think in my mind, they justified it because it goes well with the themes that I was experiencing watching the movie. It didn't bother me at all. It did bother me a little bit when I was first watching. I had to think about it, but I didn't mind thinking about it because I loved the movie so much. And I think on rewatches, I think I'm just going to be more and more down for that ending. And I think there's some people who watch this movie that are going to need that ending to happen because it can be a pretty devastating movie, but I think at its worst, it's more harsh than Mary and Max was able to get, but at its best, it's brighter than Mary and Max was able to get. And that's going to be completely based on your own perspective, whether you agree with me on that or not, because I think both movies are sad, but extremely hopeful movies. I think both of them are positive movies, despite all the sadness in them. And I love them both dearly. And yeah, I think that Memoir of a Snail is going to be one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, I could die 50 years from now and there's a chance it's in my top 10 still, Like, that's how good it was. That's how much I loved it. it has taken my number one slot. It's probably going to stay there. Adam Elliott is someone that knows how to make a movie that connects with me. Adam Elliott is someone who I wish he made more, but at the same time, if this is the time it takes to make these masterpieces, I will wait another 16 years for another movie, because holy shit, Mary and Max and Memoir of a Snail, just like, that's what I want out of a movie. That's what I want out of a piece of entertainment. I want to be entertained. I want to laugh. I want to like the animation techniques. I want to like the weird character designs that these have. I want to pay attention to the details. Like, there's so many different books in this movie. There's like so many scenes that take place at a library, or the characters are just reading books. And I kept pausing just to read what every single one of them said, because there's just so much detail. There's so much love put into every single frame of this movie. And then, I guess to wrap it up, like, because I was talking about how I think the ending actually helps the message of the movie. I think Mary and Max and Memoir of a Snail are two movies that have so many different messages. I think they have so many different ways that you could like look at them. Like, what, when you're trying to summarize what the point of one or the other is, I feel like different people might have a different answer to that, because I think some people are going to connect. Both movies are tackling so much that I feel like someone can come out of either one of them with a different perspective on what it all meant. Not what side of the film is taken, or not what the director feels. I don't think that would be the argument. I think it would just be more so what part of it connected with you the most, because autism is a huge part of Mary and Max, and some people might connect with Max. He's this autistic character. They might connect with him because of that. They might come out of the movie thinking that was the main focus, or they might think it has more to do with like Mary's like dilemma, where, like the way that the world views woman, and the way that they view like what they have to, what's expected of them, how pretty they have to look for everyone else. Like someone might leave Mary and Max thinking that's the point of it. And for me, the message behind Mary and Max, the broad message, because I think both, again, these two movies are just about life. I think they're about so much, and that's why I love them so much, because it isn't as easy as just saying, oh, the lesson that we learned at the end of the day is this. There's just so much more to it. But I think that the broadest way I could describe how I interpret the meaning behind Mary and Max is just simply to love yourself, warts and all. Even if there are things about yourself that could be seen as a bad thing, even if there are things about yourself that you see as a bad thing and wish would be different, you should still love that side of you. You should still love who you are. And someone can hear me say that and take it in like the word, like least charitable interpretation either. Obviously, I'm not talking about if you're like abusive towards people, that's something that you should love about yourself. But you like, I think I already kind of listed what Mary and Max's, like, what their insecurities would be when I was just describing, like Max's view on autism in the movie, and the, what he has, and Mary's view on herself and her self-hatred. That's, none of it comes from a warranted place, but she has it because of the way the rest of the world is and the way other people talk to her. That's to me what the message of Mary Max is. Love yourself, warts and all. Where Memoir of a Snail, it's a little harder to say after only watching it one time. But where I'm at with it right now is it's a more blunt message, actually. And it's one that is loving, but it's also one that might seem a little harsh. And that is, do not waste your life no matter how bad it gets. That's how I'm kind of viewing it right now. Because this character, Grace, goes through so much horrible stuff. And as a result, she starts like finding comfort in places where she is completely stagnant in her life, arrested development. She's not moving forward at all. She's not developing as a person. She's not a bad person. She's not hurting anyone. But she is hurting herself. She's missing out on so much of what life could be. And it's because she is never done dealing with the pain of something that happened. Because every single time something horribly painful happens, she doesn't have the person there. She doesn't have someone there for her that's going to help her get through it. Or if she does, it's like, or even if she does, sometimes it's just like before she can recover from one thing, some other horrible thing fucking happens to her. And she kind of accepts, it bleeds into her lifestyle a lot, the choices she makes. And that's one of the things I connect with the character on that I don't want to connect to, but I'm sympathetic. It's not like Caden in Synecdoche, New York, where I'm like, oh, you're kind of an asshole. I don't want to be like you. Or for it's like, I hope we both get through this shit we're going through right now. Um, and yeah, that to me, that is what I got more out of Memoir of a Snail than anything else, is just live your life, uh, move forward. And that's a pretty broad statement. It's a pretty, it's a pretty simple statement at the end of the day, but I think that that's kind of the one that matters the most in Memoir of a Snail. But I think someone might watch the movie and come out with it with a completely different view. Like there might be a different message the movie had, or a different thing that it focused on, that someone's going to have way more strong feelings about than what I said just there. Anyway, beautiful movie, 10 out of 10. Couldn't recommend it more. Please watch it. If you're a friend of mine, I might even force you to watch it eventually with me. It's a good stuff.